So, how did I know I was in love? Well, my body seemed to know before my thoughts ever had a clue of what was to come. The moment I first saw him, my perception of reality switched from how I normally saw the world to that of one of my daydreams. The ones where the images I saw had a glossy film covering them to let me know no matter how much I imagined, no matter how much I begged for them to be real, they would always remain as they were. Just dreams. And yet there I was, no longer just the writer, but instead a character in my own fantasy. I noticed his shoes first, and when I rewatched the memory in my head on the theater screen, I always replay how the camera slowly panned from his shoes to his face to reveal the person who would make every bad day I ever had before meeting him completely meaningless. Meaningless, for I would live thousands of miserable lifetimes if it meant in even just one, I would get to fall in love with him. My body knew we were falling in love before my thoughts ever had a clue of what was to come. My anxiety always is the driver of my thoughts. In the beginning, I thought about how I'd been hurt before, how I'd been made to feel unwanted. What universe would I have to live in to have finally found someone who would glance my way twice? Impossible. But as I had these thoughts, which were usually accompanied by a pounding heart, a fake laugh, sweaty hands, autopilot breathing, my body felt calm. All the symptoms I had felt around others were as if they had never existed. On our first date, I laughed, my real laugh, the mix between a donkey and a frog. I showed my excitement as I skipped through H&M like a child in a toy store, with little delighted screeches I knew some might find annoying. We sang, he danced, we hugged and struggled to let go. My body knew we were falling in love before my thoughts ever had a clue of what was to come. And the day after our first date, somehow, strangely enough, I knew. Once I grew out of my childhood naivety, I walked through the world with a feeling of dullness. I didn't necessarily care if I woke up, and sometimes I wished I didn't, because waking up just meant accepting I would never be happy. I didn't find meaning in small things, because everything meant nothing to me. And yet, the day after our first date, my body felt like it was floating, endorphins rushing through my veins freely. I took a walk to the store and noticed things I had never felt were worth my attention before. The sun shined brightly and the breeze blew gently on my face, and I was thankful. Thankful to wake up on such a beautiful day. Thankful to breathe in such fresh, crisp air. Thankful for the glow I could feel on my skin. And so, I too danced. Slowly, every song started to be a movie about him. Every smile I wished I was sharing with him. Every time I ate something delicious, I wanted him to try it too. It took some time, but finally my body had convinced my mind that we two had fallen in love. Someone I had lived without for 25 years, I now couldn't imagine waking up to a phone that didn't read, "안녕, 공주님." I wondered how I'd made it through all those years alone. But I've come to ask myself, was I really alone? In high school, in a secret notebook, I used to write letters titled, "To my future boyfriend." Cringy, I know. In those letters, I would write out the problems that I was having and how I was waiting for him. I was obsessed with certain romantic movie scenes, and I would rewind them over and over again, wondering when it would be my turn. And then, one day, he was carrying me in a pool, just like a scene I had written in a notebook still somewhere in my childhood home. And I realized it was my turn. My turn for my daydreams to be the main story. My turn to be engulfed in love. 2 years later, and here I am. Every part of me now realizing that I am in love. Before we had met, I was in love with him. I wake up every morning and find a new reason to love him. And even after we join again with the soil, our love will continue to flow through this reality and every other universe. A love not bound by the constraints of time, entangled everlastingly in love.